Hello, welcome to the Fashion Lab. It's Jenny here. Today we're going to follow up from doing our colour palette and we're going to create a lazy daisy textile design. Traditionally a textile design has been called a yardage, as in a yard of fabric, which is the equivalent measurement today is a metre of fabric, but we tend to call it either a yardage or a textile design, and if it's no longer not for textiles, it would be called a surface design. Okay, let's get straight into it. Today I'm going to do my design to about the size of my artboard, which is an A4 page. But because A4 is designed for paper, we don't have to stick to this as a true size. We can just use it as a rough idea because we know how big our A4 page is. But by the same token, if you are designing a yardage and you've got a fabric width that it's going to be printed on that might be something like 112 centimetres wide, you might want to design the repeat to go across that design maybe twice, maybe 3 times or 4 times, so you would divide it and that would be how you possibly come up with the size. But today we're going to go with this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come over to our artboard tool, and this will allow us to alter the size. And if we come up here, the width across here is 210 millimeters. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change that up to a nice clean number of 200. So we're going to lose 10 millimeters. So that's 1 centimeter. And then over here, this is 297 millimeters. So if I had 3 more millimeters on and take it up to 300, it barely changes in size. But now we've got 200 by 300. It's a lovely clean number. So I'm just going to go back to my selection tool and that will lock it in. The first place you ever start with when you're doing a textile design or any repeat pattern is we're going to create a rectangle that goes to the size of our artboard. And the great thing about setting our artboard to the size that we're after is that the rectangle will snap to the artboard, so we know that it's automatically going to be 200 by 300, so it's perfect. By default, our rectangle has got a white fill and black stroke. We want it to have, before I do this, I'm going to open up my layers so that you can see what happens. Over here, we can see on this rectangle, you've got a faint black line. And when I get rid of the black stroke, now we've got no fill and no stroke. Oh, pardon me. We actually end up with a thicker black line. To this line, I'm now going to call this boundary box, and this will have no stroke and no fill, and it ends up with a thick line. That's because Illustrator recognises that it may be going to become a boundary box, and this is a very important thing in Illustrator in things like swatches and brushes. It defines the area where the pattern works. So once we've done that, I'm going to create a second one from that. I'm just going to click and drag that, and that allows me to have a copy of it exactly in the same place. And now this time I'm going to go color background, and so now I'm going to come up to our swatches because this color background needs to have a color applied to it. In my last 2 videos, which was part 1 and part 2, we looked at creating color palettes for fashion. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come down to our library, so that's the little books on the shelf, and we're going to come down to user defined. So these are the ones that we've created. So I'm going to go to this one, and I'm going to open up the color palette. And as you can see, when I open it up, it doesn't naturally come across to my swatches, but I can from that choose the ones that I wanted. So I can go, okay, let's start with this one, this one, this one, that one. And I quite like this palette up here. So what I'm going to do is make sure that the fill's to the front, and I'm going to come over and I am going to choose this pink as the background. I'm also going to close this now because it's been transferred through to here. So I've got this and it's all ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock both of these in place, and I'm just going to, that's all right, I can stay there. So the next thing that I'm going to do is just to the side is I'm going to come over to my rectangle tool, and I'm going to just tear it off, and I'm going to get my polygon tool, and with this I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going to hold the shift, and that will give us a polygon. This time I'm going to click and drag. I'm going to create a few of these, but this time if you look down at your keyboard, there are the arrows, up arrows, sideways arrows. I'm going to hit the up arrow and see how that adds. I'm just going to add one more, and then I'll hold the shift. I'm going to click and drag, keeping my mouse on keeping my finger on the mouse, and then I'm going to add another one, and then I'm going to put my finger on the shift to keep it straight, and then I let go of my mouse first and then the shift. So once again, I'm going to click and drag, hit the up arrow, hold the shift down, let go of my mouse first, then let go of the shift. So click and drag, hit the arrow, up arrow, hold the shift, let go of my mouse, let go of the shift. So click and drag, up arrow, shift, let go. So now I've created all these different polygons. And we've got them so that they're ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to marquee the lot, so I select all of them at once. We're just trying to create a very simple design here, so I'm just trying to come up with a little motif that you might find very simple and easy to start with. We're going to come up to Effect, down to Distort and Transform, and then to the Pucker and Bloat. Click on the preview so that you can see what happens, and we want to go over to the bloat. But I'll show you what happens with the pucker first. They turn into glints. So if you were doing a sequence and you needed to randomly place a couple of these in white to show that it was sparkly, this is where I'd come. But if we go over to bloat, we end up with these lovely lazy daisies. And can you see by having different amount of sides on your polygon, you have different amounts of petals. So it's a fabulous thing. So we can go OK. And the great thing about it is at this stage, we still have it so that it's totally editable. See how these are lovely and fat, and we might decide, well, I would actually like this one to be a little bit fatter, and you could do them all at once. But if I come over this side here and come down to my appearance, all the things that I've applied to it are here, and you can see the pucker and bloat. So if I click on it, hit the preview, and maybe knock it back a little bit so that the flower gets a little fatter. Perfect. So there we go. We can leave it as it is, or we could come up to Object and expand it. So now we've lost that pucker and bloat option to it. So I'd say the last thing to do is come up to our lips, hold the Alt and go to the center of our flowers and create little centers for our little flowers. Now you could be managing the colors right now and choosing the colors as you go. I'm going to just show you something different today, so I just wanted to show you how this works. Okay, so I've got my flowers, and I might even just do a couple more, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all my flowers, and I'm going to come up to Edit and Scripts. I've gone and found this script. What we're looking for is random swatch fill. Actually, I have to come over to my swatches first, and I have to choose the color palette. So I'm going to choose my color palette here, and I'm going to come up to Edit, Swatch, Scripts, and Random Swatch Fill. This will randomly fill your swatches with the different colors, and it's just a really good way when you've got lots of motifs that you're just drawing the same way to color. So now if I hit color, and I can see right away which ones I like, and I can go to something like this, and I can go, okay, I like that, so let's go group. I'm going to, except that's not a very good one for what we're doing, because it's the colour on colour. So I'm going to, in fact, I do like the look of that, so I might just change that colour up a bit. Okay, so I'm going to put this here, and I'm going to make it bigger so I can be quite quick with this design. Okay, so when you put something, earlier we designed a boundary box which goes around the edge of it, and what the boundary box does, it will only show what is within the boundary. So this part of the flower, being outside the boundary box, will be excluded. Now I'm going to show you a little trick. I don't see other designers using this technique, but I use it all the time, and I use it with my students, and once people start doing it, it's a great tool. If I put my finger on the control and hit K, it will bring up my preferences. And if I change my keyboard increments to 100, because you remember our width of our design is 200 and our height is 300, so 100 will go well into it. So now if I put my finger on have my little flower selected, put my finger on the Alt and hit my sideways arrows once, take my finger off the Alt and hit the sideways arrow a second time. So what you're aiming to do is see what's included here. you're looking at what's excluded here. So what's excluded here now has to be included here. The same way as what's excluded this side of it must be included up here. So if I put my finger on the Alt, hit the up arrow, and then take my finger off the Alt and then just tap it up, because 100 goes into 300. Well, so therefore we've got this lovely pattern to start with. So now I can start, oops, sorry, I just had some notifications come through. Oh, I don't want that. Okay, so now the next thing I want to do is get some more flowers. That's a nice looking flower, nice, maybe a little bit bigger. Put that there. This one maybe a little. Yeah. So with this flower, if I want to keep it there, what's been excluded on this side must now be included on the other side. So finger on the Alt, hit tab once, take finger off the Alt, tab again. This here, Alt, take it off, tab down. So you can see it's a really easy way of getting your design to happen quite quickly without having to fluff around too much. Okay, so, and we need to sort of hurry up so I'm not wasting your time. There we go. And you don't want them all in a row because then it will look very much like a line. So you're trying to make sure that everything has a nice random feel about it and is spread out nicely. I'm just trying to hurry this up so I'm not taking too long. And maybe one more last little flower. Okay, maybe this one here. And we'll put him up there. Okay, beautiful. So you can see by using the script I was able to colour a whole heap up, put it into place and then fiddle around with it. Now we could go on and I could be more particular, but that doesn't matter right now. What we're going to do is we're going to come down to the bottom, and where I've locked the colour background, locking the colour background allows me to select things and move it around without moving the background or the boundary box. So now what I want to do is unlock it all, select it all, come up to your swatches, click and drag into some empty space, and it automatically put it up here. Once you've done that, you want to get your rectangle tool. You want to create a test square. It needs to be bigger than where the boundary box is so that you can see the repeat happening. Click on, make sure the fill is to the front, and then click on the pattern, and you can see we've got this lovely design. But before we go any further, before we give up on this, we want to make sure that this is selected, and we want to click on our recolor artwork, and you can see all of those color palettes that we imported in we have here. So we could perhaps click on this one and then click on the switch colors, and so you can see sometimes when you pull colors out and make from a larger selection and make it tighter, you have a little bit more control over it, so that can be very, very nice. So once again, let me just show you if we were to go recolor, and we do a couple of different options through here, and we go okay, yes, and then one more, recolor. Let's do one of the bigger color palette like the digital. When you've got a large color palette where you've got a lot of colors to choose from, you lose that sort of control. I mean, you can go in and swap those colors over a little bit more, but I'm just wanting to show it to you on this sort of thing. So there you go. Hopefully you can see how you can start with something like a polygon, turn it into a lazy daisy, create a textile design. And really I think there's two things here to take away, not just the textile design, but sometimes it's great to download a script and embed it in the actual program in your presets. Also, the other thing that I think is really worth taking away is that is how to use your color palette, you know, making sure that you're getting the most out of it. Okay, thank you for coming today. Bye.